Today's teardown subject is a 2-liter Ford EcoBoost out of a 2015 Ford Focus ST. The 2-liter EcoBoost was also offered in the Fusion, in the Escape, and the Explorer, and I might be missing a model there. These engines produce about 250 horsepower. It's a direct injected turbocharged 4-cylinder, and if you'll notice, it is pretty similar to the Mazda MZR design, and that's because this engine is built off of the same architecture. This is not the first 2-liter I've had on the channel. I actually had one, probably 2 years ago, and it was out of one of my vehicles I bought at the auction. The engine sustained some pretty heavy damage, and I didn't feel comfortable trying to fix it and sell it to somebody as a good engine, so I tore it down instead. But this one is supposed to be a bad engine. This is somebody's core return, which means they bought a used engine at a salvage yard and they returned their old one to get their core charge back. So I don't know details about this. I don't know mileage. I know it's out of a 15 based on date codes on this engine. Now the one I tore down before that had a lot of really good parts I did really well on, and I hope to repeat that with this engine. We'll see what's wrong. The very first thing we're going to do is turn the engine over. Now I did remove the clutch and flywheel from this engine so I could get it on the stand. I can tell you that the crank does move, so I know it's not locked up. What was that? What? Hold on a second. Are you guys seeing this? That's kind of fun. I think it's safe to say that there's a couple plugs missing. Yep. Oh, why does that one not have, why did that one not shoot out? No spark plugs at all. Okay. Well, since there are no spark plugs to remove and look at, we're going to start with the intake manifold, which apparently is broken. Oh. Did I get them all? Probably not. Maybe. Yes. Man, this crankcase, there we go. Intake is off. So maybe kind of hard to see in there, but yuck. This thing could have definitely benefited from an induction service. I don't see any rust, which is good. I don't think this engine sat outside for very long. Now we're going to prep this valve cover. Let's get the dipstick out. It's dry. Boost control system removed. Before I can remove the valve cover, I have to remove this bracket because for some reason they used a valve cover stud or valve cover bolt. Why couldn't they bolt this to anything else? Anyway, now we can get the valve cover off. Nope, that's a job for Blue. All right, we just got to pull harder. That's it. I think it's these solenoids here.
Why are these so difficult?
I got an idea. Man, I've never had a valve cover fight me like this. It's very frustrating. Oh, it's beautiful. It's all clean. This is just like the last 2-liter I tore down. It is really clean inside. It's exceptionally nice looking. I don't see anything wrong. This looks great. This might have been a pretty low mileage engine. Even the oil looks good. The next thing we're going to do is strip the front cover and get the timing cover off, starting with the crank pulley. As you can tell, these aren't keyed. This is one of the things I don't like about these engines. They use clamping force and this diamond coated crush washer. I can't talk. You're supposed to replace these anytime you have this off. Next we have just a few 8mm and the cover should be off. I gotta remove the sensor. Pretty sure. Oh, it looks like I need to pull this tensioner off as well. And timing cover's off. Thing is super clean inside, just a little bit of varnish down here is really not bad. Well, the timing system all looks really good. All the guides still have all their material. It's all really clean. This looks like a really low mileage engine. I'm going to be pretty bummed out if this ends up being a good engine. Let's go ahead and strip the timing system down. That might be like a loaded gun. How can I fix that? No, see, that was fine. It's fine. Yeah, that looks perfectly good. That guide barely has any wear. It looks like a brand new part. Little bit of wear on this. You can see the color difference just right there, which is right where the tensioner pushes. There's also a little bit of wear on the back here from the tensioner, but it's not bad. It's just not new. It's definitely reusable. And yes. Next, I'd like to focus some attention, see what I did there, to the back of the engine. We're going to remove this feed line from the high pressure fuel pump. We'll remove the high pressure fuel pump and the housing so that we can start on the camshafts. There's just a lot of stuff back here. Where do we start? Ooh, those were tight. Huh. Usually this just... Guess it just needs a little convincing. Well, that was violent, but it's out. Next, we'll remove the vacuum pump. Man, look at that crystal clean oil coming out of that. Oh, it's going on my floor. No. Braking development. I found a heat tab on the cylinder head and another heat tab down here on the block, which tells me this engine may not be a core return and it may be a sold unit. This could have been something that was bought, then returned, or perhaps this engine has been in multiple vehicles and it was in fact a core return after it was replaced once before. We're going to go ahead and remove this water manifold. The next thing on the docket is to remove the variable valve timing solenoids. Oh man, they came right out. I don't see any junk on them. They have these little screens. They're clean. Yeah, this is a really nice engine.
Now it's time to cram the crap caps loose.
I'm not going to claim this is in perfect shape, but very good would accurately describe what I'm seeing here. I don't really see any damage to the journals. Someone put fresh oil in this thing. I think this is a returned engine. But why? Well, the cam caps look pretty good as well. There's a little bit more wear. Nothing is horrendously damaged. I don't find any debris. It doesn't look like it's run dry. It all looks good. And the condition of the cams back up that assessment. I don't see any damage. Maybe a little bit. Not terrible. We've absolutely seen much worse. Yeah, it's got a little wear. Definitely reusable. Now it's time to remove the head bolts. So not all of those were as tight as the others. I think this one, and this one were a little looser. Wonder if that's what's wrong. Okay, this should come off pretty easily. Hopefully I don't get hung up on anything. Well, okay. There's the head gasket. I don't see any issues with that. That looks good. So this all looks pretty good. I'll try to look pretty closely at the block surface. I know the newer EcoBoosts are known for cracking blocks. I don't think this generation has that problem. I don't see anything jumping out at me. I'll probably clean the surface up a little bit to get a better look. Some staining on that cylinder, but it's not bad. We don't know what this bore looks like. We'll turn that over in a minute. Let's go look at that cylinder head. So this all looks okay to me. I don't see anything terrible. I don't see any marks on any of the valves, like they made contact with anything. I don't see any cracks. This engine's not giving up the mystery yet. All right, now we're going to drain the oil. I'm sure there's still a little bit in here. Oh, it's so clean. It's the cleanest oil we've ever seen come out of one of these engines. I don't see any sparkles or glitter. That's unfortunate. This engine, if this engine ends up being good, someone returned it for the wrong reason. Now it's time to make a big mess. Flip this all the way over. It's not too bad. Time to remove the oil pan. Okay. So the oil pan has a little bit of a metallic hue in here, and no, not just because that's aluminum, but it doesn't really look that bad. There's some dirt in here. I don't see anything terrible. A little bit of water and moisture. Not a lot. No chunks. Nothing too bad. Now this part of the engine looks really nice. It's all clean. I bet this was a nice low mileage engine at some point, though I think they all were. The next thing I'm going to do is remove the pickup. We can't really see the screen, but we can blow air through it backwards and see if it blows anything out. See what comes out of here. Not really much of anything. Nope. Now we will remove the balance cartridge. Yep, it's a leaker. Okay, well, the oil pump is loud. We need to get that off somehow. How are we going to get that off? I got an idea. Perfect. There we go. Oil pump chain, sprocket, all looks good. I'm sure it's good after that situation. That's unfortunate. Now we will remove the oil pump. I don't know how this comes apart. We will find out. I think this comes apart if you just give it some tap. No? Okay, what about this one? It's getting there. I think we can pry it apart now. Don't worry. I don't know what that was. It's blue. These are not worth anything used, so I'm not doing any damage here. Well, the oil pump actually looks pretty good. I don't see a ton of wear or damage. A little bit of damage on the outside of this. But what's weird is I don't see any coinciding damage on the housing. A little bit right there. It's not bad. Now it's time to remove this main cap girdle. Okay, now we just need to get that popped up. These can be fun. I see. Just give it a couple thunks with the hammer and it was fine. All right, now we're going to try to turn this thing over and see how this feels. It's got a little bit of a tight spot when 2 and 3 are at the top of the bore. I don't feel anything loose. Okay, well, I guess at this point we're going to take the rods and pistons out. No! There was a bearing shell that just disappeared into the oil drain. It took a little effort to get out. Now the crank should just come right out. Okay. Well, to my chagrin, this all looks really good. The upper main shells look perfect. I don't see any problems with this part of the block at all. There's a little bit of wear on that bearing shell, but it's not terrible. The rest of these look pretty good. A little bit of wear on that front one as well. It's not bad. And the crankshaft looks pretty much perfect. I don't see any damaged journals. I don't see any issues. The rod bearing shells don't really have a lot of wear either. It's all pretty comparable to the condition of the rest of this engine. The rods look good. I don't see any issues there. I even made sure they weren't bent. Maybe I thought perhaps it's a hydro lock, but all the pistons look good. The ring lands are pretty carboned up on these things. I don't really see anything wrong. I'm kind of bummed out, guys. That sucks. Did I miss something here? Let's go take a look at the block. Well, I looked this thing over with a fine-tooth comb, and I couldn't find any cracks or any damage to the block surface at all. I scraped it. Unless I'm just missing something. And then if you look at the bores don't really look that bad. A little bit of glazing in that cylinder. But there is a little bit of a detonation spot right there at the top of that bore. Cylinder number 3. You think this thing was fuel washed, maybe? Maybe it detonated. It also looks like there's some staining at the top of that cylinder. And that could have been a low compression situation, I suppose. I don't know. I guess what we should have done is a compression test. Or at least a leak down. We could have done that. It's a little too late now. I'd like to address the non-keyed crank complaint that I typically have when I pull engines apart. And some of you have brought up a really interesting point, and that is that they aren't keyed because you can get a more precise timing out of them because of the stacked tolerances between the machining on the block and the head and all of the other components that adjustability allows it to be perfectly precise. However, I understand that with camshafts completely. If you want to not have keyed camshafts, that's totally fine. But what is the difference between keying or non-keying the crank if you have a chain where you don't have teeth to line up? If the top has infinite adjustment, the bottom doesn't need to also, at least not that I can understand. The other thing is there are a lot of manufacturers that still key their crankshafts. And does that mean that they have better machining tolerances, or are they leaving something on the table? It's a good question. I'd love to see the comments on this subject. My second biggest fear with tearing down engines on this channel is that inadvertently someday I may tear down a perfectly good engine. And there are lots of reasons why a good engine could end up in the core pile. One of them could be that the engine was misdiagnosed and it wasn't really what was wrong with the car. I've seen that several times. It could also be that the engine is perfectly fine, but the customer lied about its condition to get out of paying for a restocking fee. Not all customers are as honest as you wish. It could also be that there was something wrong with the engine that could have been easily solved with the engine in the car, but no one wanted to take the time or spend the money on labor to find out what that was. This industry isn't perfect. There's a lot of waste, but I think I speak for all of us in this industry, and we all try our best. Now, a lot of yard sell engines as good, untested, and have a fantastic warranty. I prefer to the opposite side of the spectrum. I like to know everything there is to know about the engines I sell. I do leak down and compression tests on engines that don't run. If it doesn't run great, I still do those tests because I like to know why. We watch live data, we watch fuel trims. The last thing I want to do, aside from tearing down a good engine, is sell an engine that I believe to be good, especially after I'm told it's bad, and then it get returned. The idea of selling an engine that someone's got to take the time or spend the money on labor to pull back out, waste all that time and money just to return it, it puts such a pit feeling in my stomach that I'll do anything I can do to avoid that scenario. Now, this engine itself, I didn't really see a smoking gun. The block had a little bit of damage, maybe some staining, some evidence of maybe running a little lean, but I don't know that that would have caused any drivability issues at all. So I don't really know why this engine was returned, but at least it wasn't a total waste because most of the parts that came out of this engine are in perfectly good condition. I've got a lot of great parts to sell, so if you'd like to buy any of the parts out of this engine, or maybe you want to buy all of it and build your 2-liter, or if you want to buy parts out of this amazingly ventilated 2006 Savannah 3500 with a 6-liter and a 4L80, runs great, 170,000 miles, you can go to Importapart.com and peruse our inventory, or you can email us at importapartsales@gmail.com. I really hope you enjoyed this teardown. Hopefully next week we see a little bit more carnage. As always, I love all the comments, all the feedback, and even the criticism. I love it all. and I'll catch you on the next one.